Well, hello again from here at Whitley Park. Now, the easy option would be to record this video indoors, but that wouldn't be bringing you a real flavour of Storm Eowyn up here, would it? Now, 80-mile-an-hour winds have battered the northeast overnight. All flights out of Newcastle Airport have been cancelled this morning. You can see the trees moving in the background there, not quite as much as my quiff though. Newcastle's travel plans, they're set to be disrupted. Scheduled to fly to Southampton this afternoon from Samson Aviation. Likely that flight is going to be cancelled, put back until tomorrow morning, which will mean Newcastle travel on the day of the game as my selfie stick just takes flight there. Yeah, that'll mean travelling down 9 o'clock tomorrow morning ahead of a 3 p.m. kickoff. Not ideal for Newcastle, but that's a situation they're facing. Even in terms of training there, behind the trees, Newcastle perhaps can't even go indoor and train in the big dome there because of the dangers and the risks attached to that. So they're going to have to find a little sheltered area outdoor. Will it affect their training plans as well? It probably will do. Is that enough? Have you got a feeling now and a flavour of just how windy it is up here? I don't even know if you can hear me. I'm going to go inside somewhere, I don't know where, and talk to you about the training ground, which was the big story I broke yesterday. That development, that architects have now been appointed to bring those drawings, those grand state-of-the-art designs that should give Newcastle the training facility that is the envy of the world. Can they erect big fences to safeguard against the winds which routinely batter us up here? But yeah, I think that's enough for now. I'm going to find shelter somewhere and tell you exactly what's been said inside with Eddie Howe in his press conference. Okay, guys, see you soon. And where better to find shelter than Eddie Howe's very own hot seat here inside the media suite. The doors are still rattling there, but I think we should be safe. And just to pick up on what I touched on earlier there, the news I broke in my Newcastle Confidential column yesterday at Mail Sport, that Populous, the US-based architects, they will provide the drawings that form the basis of the design for Newcastle United's new training grounds. Now, why is this significant? When you look at Populous, their back catalogue of work, they've designed the brand new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium that really is quite magnificent. They will be the guys behind the design of AS Roma's new stadium too. Now, you may well ask, why aren't they doing the stadium? Why are they going to be doing the training ground? Well, you look at the work they've done with American sports, NBA, NFL, and some of the complexes they've designed and been the brains behind over there really are quite breathtaking. Not just that, when it comes to football as well. Real Madrid Sports Complex City, as it's known there, they were the architects who designed that layout. You've just got to look at that. And I've been told, if you want to see what could be down the track at Newcastle, look at what they've incorporated there with Madrid. State of the art in every sense. So it really is one of those complexes that is, we use that phrase, the envy of the world. And that is the ambition. That is what PIF want for Newcastle. Look at what they've got there, those all-weather pitches. Again, all-weather would be useful in these conditions, all weather, if it safeguards against the wind, of course. There's a little mini stadium there. I think we should absolutely expect that with the Newcastle development. Somewhere for the second team, perhaps even the women's team to play as well. What else have they got? They've got media suites, they've got cinema rooms, they've got residential options, they've got multiple pitches, indoor, outdoor, swimming pools, hydrotherapy pools, the very latest gyms and all of the facilities and equipment footballers can need to be at their very best. And that is what Eddie Howe spoke about this morning from this seat when he was pressed on the subject. He said Newcastle need world-class facilities. That is what he said, with the training ground or with the stadium too. And this news that I broke yesterday, this is a really significant development. And it is a coup getting Populous on board. Yes, there was a lot of competition. Populous will probably no doubt view it as a coup themselves. But for Newcastle to have this company and their level of expertise on board, that is significant. And it just shows that things now are moving in the right direction. Now, what I'm told is that we shouldn't necessarily expect by default Populous to then be the firm who work on the stadium. I think Newcastle are perhaps going to employ a different architect to work on that, with the idea being to spread risk and to allow the architects to focus solely on what are two individual huge projects. I think that could be the same as well with the builders who are now jostling for position to be involved. So it is exciting. It does provide that proof that PIF, yes, they are interested. The question that's been asked multiple times of late, and more importantly, it will, down the track, give the club the training facility they need. You look at where they are now at Darsley Park. It's been the same for the best part of 10, 15, 20 years. I revealed in the confidential column before Christmas, there's more expansion work scheduled there. They're going to build on an area that's currently a car park to add some more buildings. But even though they've done £10 million worth of improvements to that current complex, it's still nowhere near. It's not in the top half in terms of the Premier League. And you need that to attract players. You need that to develop players. You need that to send the message around the globe that you are this big super club with ambition and with that infrastructure to support it. And that's the right step that Newcastle have made this week by getting Populous on board. Now, in terms of timescale and location, well, location, first of all, the shortlist has been narrowed down. This is something I've mentioned over the last few months in the confidential column. There were 1 or 2 sites up close at the airport near Wolverhampton, but the big one as well that's being talked about in industry circles is the racecourse. And given that land is owned by the Reuben family with a 20% stake in Newcastle, that is absolutely the favourite. And it is a good location too, you know, close enough to the airport, close enough to the city, and well connected to where the stadium would be as well. So while we haven't had confirmation of that just yet, I would say the racecourse is looking the most likely. Now, timescales, this isn't going to happen overnight. It's a big, ambitious project. I believe that plans have been drawn. When we do see those spades in the ground, well, that could even be next year. They've still got to get a builder on board. They've still got to get all the necessary planning permission. So yes, while this is a big and positive and exciting development, don't expect to see Alexander Isak and Bruno Guimaraes kicking balls in the new training ground within 12 months. And that is a slight cause for concern if it is still several years away. These players, they want these arenas now. They want the big stadium. They want the training ground. It's something I've reported previously that when Isak and Guimaraes and Botman and everybody else joined the club, there was all this talk from the ownership and all these noises around the developments and how imminent it could be. Well, it's not really. And I think there's a realisation and an acceptance now among the squad and perhaps even by extension the staff and the management that a new stadium and the new training ground might just be for the next generation. So they've got to find a way to satisfy the needs and the wants and the ambitions of Isak, Guimaraes, Gordon, Tonali, while they don't have these complexes and these facilities. And to do that, they've got to provide it by success on the pitch. And how do they do that? Well, they qualify for the Champions League. They give them that platform where they want to play. They challenge for the cups, which they are currently doing. So everything on that front is looking okay, but also as well, players want to see new players arrive. And again, this was something, it's January, how can we not? It was a subject we explored with Eddie Howe. Well, we've said for a while now not to expect incomings this month. That remains the case. Eddie said, how many times do I have to say it? Because of the PSR situation, there aren't going to be fresh faces before the end of January, but there are likely going to be players going out. Now, just to bring you a quick little newsy update on that, at the start of the week, I didn't expect Miguel Almiron to still be here. Now, he is. As it stands, he could even be on that flight down to Southampton this weekend, whenever that may be. We still do expect him to head to Atlanta United. Lloyd Kelly, now there's been interest. There was a loan inquiry from Juventus, but in terms of the valuation or what it would take to make Newcastle make a decision, nothing is coming that's anywhere close to that, be it from Italy or be it from Turkey. Now, Vlachodimos, I reported earlier this week too that Martin Dubravka is set to stay. I believe that some agreement has been reached that means Dubravka will stay beyond this month. He won't be joining Al-Shabaab. But then right on the back of that, there was the news that Al-Shabaab are interested in Newcastle's forgotten goalkeeper, Vlachodimos. Now, Eddie was pushed on that this morning, didn't give a massively clear answer, but he did leave the door ajar to fringe players leaving, and that, of course, would include Vlachodimos. He said no core first-team players will be sold this month, but you would, by extension, say that doesn't include Vlachodimos, it doesn't include Almiron, doesn't include Lloyd Kelly. Well, if an offer came in that was too good to turn down, I still think we could see movement there. And if it all happened quickly enough, would the domino effect then lead to players coming in? We'll have to see, or will they keep their powder dry for the summer? But I did push Eddie on this subject, and I said, you know, you looked at that game last weekend against Bournemouth, and it was evident from the off, really, that it wasn't going Newcastle's way. There was a mental fatigue. There was a physical fatigue, and Eddie's reiterated that this morning. But there was also no options from the bench. And while Eddie spoke last week about there being a short-term pain with regards no players coming in and strengthening the squad in January, I put it to him this morning, well, you've got to safeguard against long-term pain and the long-term health of the football club. It needs reinforcement. It needs fresh faces. And that was so evident last week against Bournemouth. And he said, yes, you know, they're well stocked, in defensive areas, but when you go further forward and he looks to his bench and he wants to make those changes to impact the game, as he needed to do last week, they're just not there, especially as Harvey Barnes and Callum Wilson are currently injured. What is there? Well, there's Willa Sula, who we've all got doubts about the Willa Sula project and quite where it might lead down the line. Beyond that, Kieran Trippier as a defender who could be classified as an attacking change who can impact things, but if Trippier's not playing every week, I don't think you're seeing that level of sharpness from him. Of course, there's Joe Willock and Sean Longstaff, but they're midfielders. I think what Eddie's talking about is there are no options in that final third. You know, the St-Maximin type, if you like, who can come on and change a game when a team needs inspiration. And that's what Eddie spoke about this morning, that danger, that risk that a squad can go stale. He said ideally he would want to bring in a player every window. It's 3 windows now. It's 2023, the summer of, since Newcastle brought in a player who would be considered a first-team starter. Eddie said he wants to do that every window, and there's data there's evidence to support the fact that when you do that and you have got that little bit of rotation of in and out, it does inspire those who are already there. I thought it was really significant this morning when Eddie made a deliberate point of addressing that and bringing the word stale back into the room. It might not happen this month, but down the line in the summer, they really have to be ready to go. Otherwise, the risk ruining something special here. They've got good players. I've already touched on that with regards to the infrastructure, the training ground, the stadium, what those top stars need. Well, what they can bring them is a sign of ambition by signing players and improving the squad, improving the first 11, but also improving the depth. Because for me, that talent pool, that runs pretty shallow pretty quickly. And we saw that against Bournemouth last weekend. Now, I touched on this in the confidential column, but Newcastle scouts have been really busy the last few weeks. Eddie says that work will continue. It's got to continue, even if it is for 6-7 months down the line. Now, Steve Nickson, he was in Lille recently. Of course, he was watching Jonathan David, the Canadian striker, who every time you see him looks tremendously exciting. He's out of contract in the summer. There'll be no shortage of suitors there. But also the Icelandic midfielder, Håkan Haraldsson, only 21-year-old, capped 19 times by Iceland. He looks really exciting. I thought he was brilliant against Liverpool last Tuesday night. Newcastle are among many clubs who are watching him too. So just one to keep an eye on in that regard. Now, what fitness news was there this morning and how will that affect team selection tomorrow? Well, Nick Pope, he's back training. He'll return to the squad. We don't think he's going to come in straight away for Martin Dubravka. I think that would certainly send the wrong message, and everything we thought about Dubravka staying, well, that might just change if Nick Pope was put straight back into the 11 tomorrow. So Martin Dubravka, he will continue in goal, but having Pope on the bench, that's a boost. Callum Wilson, he's not ready just yet, but there's been no setbacks. Everything is still on course for that first week in February and perhaps the Carabao Cup semi-final second leg against Arsenal. Any other concerns from last weekend? Well, Sven Botman, he came off at half-time. That was tactical, but he was also fatigued. He certainly looked it in the first half. Fabian Schär came on, didn't have a great second half. Perhaps he was still feeling the effect of illness, but both of those are okay. And in terms of team selection for the game at Southampton, I think Eddie's only really got one call to make, and that is Schär or Botman is the right-sided centre-half to join Dan Burn. I think he'll probably stick with Botman, and Newcastle will be unchanged, in part because there are no other options. It will be Isak, Gordon and Murphy across the front three, with the only real first-team changes on the bench that I've already touched on, the likes of Willock, Longstaff and Kieran Trippier. So what does that mean in terms of a prediction? Well, that might sound negative in terms of Eddie not having many options, and we saw against Bournemouth last week the dangers of that, but I do think they will get back to winning ways tomorrow. I just think it was a game too far last weekend, and it was so obvious from the off that when you've got 1 or 2 or 3 who perhaps aren't fully tuned in mentally and their thinking is a little bit cloudy, it really does spread pretty quickly, and Newcastle just weren't able to snap out of that. Now, it was on the back of a fantastic 9-game winning run. They are allowed that. They are due that off day. It's about how they respond, and I would fully expect a response tomorrow at Southampton. And I honestly don't think there's probably a better game for it against a team who they know they're better than. Just go there and exert that. And while I'm not expecting 4s or 5s, I do think it'll be a comfortable 2-0 victory for Newcastle with another clean sheet as well. And that would set them up just nicely for that winnable game back at home against Fulham a week later, and then that big week, that huge week they've got with the Arsenal second leg. So I think Newcastle are okay. I said last weekend in the video, there's no need for panic. It's okay. You are allowed to lose a game, especially against opposition who are absolutely at it. Bournemouth were fantastic. They were tremendous, but Newcastle can be too, and I think they will be tomorrow. Now, my plan is to be there. I'm looking at the flight plan at the moment out to Newcastle. It doesn't look good. Goodness knows where all those cancelled planes are going to end up. But it's my plan, my hope to fly down there tomorrow morning. If you're on the flight come and say hello. Yeah, we might even have to pool together for an Uber to get us in time there for that 3 o'clock kickoff if the travel chaos does continue. But please, for now, hit like, comment, subscribe. Leave your thoughts below the line as well. What do you think of the news on the new training ground? The Populace coming on board to provide those plans. What in terms of team selection for tomorrow? What would you do? Do you think they need to freshen it up? And what about transfers? Are they taking a huge risk, a gamble, by not strengthening this month? I think they are, even though their hands might be tied to a degree. So yeah, guys, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll see you down at St Mary's Stadium tomorrow, reflecting post-match on what I think is going to be another Newcastle victory. Okay, see you soon, and I really mean it this time. Take care. It's wild out there. Bye-bye.